Theresa May is right. The UK is unique in the way it's tackling extremism. There's no other country in the world that's a modern democracy that is clamping down on non-violent extremism in the same way that the government are intending to do in Britain. Non-violent extremists are people who are committed to non-violence. And yet we know that people like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks and William Wilberforce were all committed to non-violence and yet were accused of being extremists in their lifetimes. So this is a very dangerous plan.
That woman with the glasses is Liberal Iqra Khalid. It's hard to tell if she's happy or just relieved that her motion passed. Here is what it's all about. The key part of Khalid's motion calls on the government to, quote, condemn Islamophobia and all forms of systemic racism and religious discrimination, and have the Heritage Committee develop an approach to stopping it.
New details now about that terror north of the border.
A fatal shooting at a mosque in Quebec City.
Conservatives, particularly many of their leadership candidates, argued the non-binding motion could stifle free speech and that Islamophobia wasn't defined. The Liberals lined up behind Khalid's motion and refused to support a conservative motion that condemned prejudice against all religions.
Why is this important? The ability to criticize the religious teachings and practices of a faith is a cornerstone of our democracy and our pluralism. Moreover, the ability to question and speak against the edicts of religious leaders allows us to combat hate and oppression. This is why I will be voting against M103 and supporting the motion before us today.
It's what the far right and jihadists have in common, a craving for an all-out war of civilizations. Now, the motive of the gunman who shot up the Grand Mosque in Quebec City.
It is unfortunate that this motion has divided so many communities, he said.
If we in Canada claim to have any moral fiber embedded in our foreign policy, we must speak against these laws because they lead to gross human rights violations. No study, law, or government will ever abdicate us from our individual responsibility to uphold the principles that maintain our free society through our own individual actions.
A columnist sparking outrage saying that it should be illegal to be a stay-at-home mom. Sarah Leigh Marquand writes for the Daily Telegraph in Australia and says, quote, rather than wail about the supposed liberation in a woman's right to choose to shun paid employment, we should make it a legal requirement that all parents of children of school age or older are gainfully employed.
So wouldn't it be great if it is illegal and women have to return to work and the community has to step up?
Why would you want the state to make that kind of decision? That they would take away our liberty? They would take away our liberty and force us to become whatever the state wants, and they would raise our children. Some of us have values and principles that we want to infuse in our children. We don't want the state or strangers teaching our children.
I understand.
Give them freedom. This is America.
Yeah.
What you do and where you go on the internet is about to become even less private.
President Trump is expected to sign a bill that would allow internet companies to sell your online browsing data.
This is a bad step down a dark path,
which allows your online information to be stored and sold by broadband internet service providers like AT&T, Comcast, and Verizon without your consent.
Some of the information internet service provider sites are collecting from you:
your browsing history, online shopping habits, even apps and GPS history on your cell phone can now be up for sale.
What's so upsetting about this is there isn't a whole lot that consumers can do.
It's all there, from your Google searches to video chats and even to smart products that connect to the internet.
I have a simple question. What the heck are you thinking? What is in your mind? Why would you want to give out any of your personal information to a faceless corporation for the sole purpose of them selling it? Give me one good reason why Comcast should know what my mother's medical problems are. You know how they'd know? Because when I went to the doctor with her and they told me what it was, I had no clue what they were talking about. I came home and I searched it on the net. And I searched the drugs that she was taking. The same with my children. Just last week, I bought underwear on the internet. Why should you know what size I take? Or the color? Or any of that information?
We're just afraid that ISPs are going to turn the creepiness up to 11.
My phone number, my social security number, my credit card number, my passwords, everything is mine. And yet, you just want to give it away.
Companies like Google and Facebook already save and sell user information.
We're talking medical information, we're talking passwords, we're talking financial information, we're talking college applications. There is nothing in today's society that every one of us doesn't do every day on the internet, and yet Comcast is going to get it.
You can always opt out by contacting the internet service provider and saying you don't want your data to be sold.
But we should note there is currently no law requiring ISPs to allow you to opt out. The decision is up to each individual company. And Scott, these businesses know your digital footprint is worth billions of dollars to marketing and ad agencies.
These companies are not going broke. That's not the situation. The internet is not in jeopardy. This is plain and simple. And I don't get this. When I was growing up, I thought one of the tenets of the Republican Party that I admired the most was privacy.
If you'd asked me 5 years ago if I thought I would see these types of systems becoming available at any time within my lifetime, I would have been pretty skeptical. But I would say now that within the next 10 years or so, we will probably begin to see systems that can restore function to people with paralysis.
For decades, researchers have worked to create a better and more direct connection between a human brain and a computer. Those advances have been notable, but now the work is yielding groundbreaking results.
But there are still a lot of questions and concerns about connecting brains to computers. It's a debate the Stanford team embraces.
Over the past few decades, we've become increasingly comfortable with having various devices implanted in our bodies.
So he's trying to stay one step ahead with an idea to implant our brains with computer chips. For some people, it's a sci-fi step too far.
So what is it about Hillsong United's music that grabs people, do you think?
Well, I think it's positive. First of all, I think that it's, in a time when there's so much negativity and a lot of hopelessness, there's a message of hope.
Hillsong United are absolute superstars, with album sales topping 16 million, multiple #1 singles. Turn my eyes to see your face, so my fears surrender.
Stars and hearts too vast to climb. I got
Not too hard to fall so far, but I found heaven as love swept low. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it Found me here at your feet again. Everything I am, reaching out, I surrender. Come sweep me up in your love again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touch the sky when my knees hit the ground. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward
It's going to make news. How do you balance staying normal with the fact that now people want to know about you guys personally and who you're hanging with and all that stuff?
Well, we've always said love God, love people, and we believe everyone needs Jesus, and we're no different. And from the faceless to the famous, we're literally just ordinary Australians that just, by the grace of God, we got to be a part of a film, Let Hope Rise, and hopefully that the message of that film, that if God could do something like that in our lives, He could do it definitely in yours, because we're very normal again.